So, welcome to another lesson, and we're going to look at a technique today called pull-offs, which is linked to our last lesson on hammer-ons. It's a technique that's also used by many guitarists, and it's used, another real artist that stands out in my mind is Eric Clapton, uses it for his very famous song, Layla. So, pull-offs, which is with your fretting hand. So, last lesson we looked at hammer-ons, which is starting with your index finger and hammering on with another finger. So, we're going to take the example of going from finger 1 to finger 3 on the G string. We looked at that lesson last time. So, you pick the first note and you hammer on. Now, a pull-off is very linked to a hammer-on, and it's how to get from 1 to 3 and then back from 3 to 1 in this instance. So, it's hammering on with our note and making sure we're hammering on with the tip of our finger, because that's the best way we're going to do our pull-off. If we're very flat fingered with our when we hammer on, we're going to find it a lot more difficult to do the pull-off, and it's not going to sound as clear as it can be. So when you're hammering on, you're going to pull off with that finger. Let's have a look at the camera down here to make sure we can see it nice and clearly. So we're going to hammer on, and I'm going to pull off. I'm pulling off. Using that finger to pull off the string back to that note. So what I want you to do with this lesson, the last lesson we started with our index finger. This time I want to have that index finger in place, but we're going to start with our third finger. And we're going to pick this note, and then we're going to pull off the note. Now what I want you to do, instead of just lifting your finger off the fretboard, I want you to try and pull down as if your finger is going to rest on the string below. You're going to try and pull it off. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm pulling it off like here. Pulling that finger down, okay? I'm holding this firmly in place so the string doesn't move, and I'm pulling it firmly down. There we go. Okay, so what I want to do now, we're going to take our hand away and put it back to our picking hand, and we're going to have a go at using our picking hand, and then pulling off our third finger back to our index finger. Now, this technique might be a little bit trickier than the hammer-ons that we've looked at last lesson, but it's a technique that you just practice and practice, and you will build up that muscular strength in your fingers. Remember to stay on the tip of your fingers when you're pulling off, and try and keep your hand. Try not to move your hand all over the place. Try and keep your hand in a nice, strong, steady position where you're in control of your hand. So I'm going to start with that note again, and then I'll pull it off. Now, if you get to the point where you're mastering that technique and you think you can do that quite well, try and incorporate it with the hammer-on and the pull-off. So you can start with your first technique of starting with your index finger and pick it and hammer on. And then you can pick the note and pull off. Pick, hammer on, pick, pull off. Pick, hammer on, pick, pull off. And if you get really, really good at that, the next step up from that, see if you can do a pick, hammer on, and then without picking again, do the pull off. So. Notice I'm only picking the note once, I'm hammering on with the tip of my finger, and then I'm pulling off down back to the index finger. Okay. Now, once you get familiar with those techniques, then you can start being a lot more elaborate and working with the other fingers that you might have done with the hammer-on exercise. So you could be 1 to 2. Or you can do 1 to 4. get more elaborate with that. So give that a go. Again, I'll put a couple songs on this at the end of this video for things that you might want to look at. Once you start getting that technique, you can have a look at some of the songs and see if you can play it in context of a song and practice your technique. Good luck.